Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Galaxy channel. Tonight we are going to wonder about something very old and very tender. A question that sounds enormous when you first say it aloud, but grows kinder the longer you hold it. We are going to ask what the very first light in the universe actually was. Not the first star you could ever name, not the first sunrise over any particular hill, but the very first light of all. The moment when the cosmos stopped being only darkness and warmth and pressure and became, for the first time, something that could shine. It is a strange and lovely paradox when you turn it over slowly. The universe began hot, hotter than any fire you have ever stood beside, and yet for its first long stretch of time, it could not be seen. Because it was too bright to be transparent, too crowded to let any single ray travel free. The first true light, the kind that could finally cross open space and reach an eye that did not yet exist, did not arrive when things grew hotter. It arrived when things began to cool. The first light was not a sudden striking of a match in the dark. It was more like a first warm glow waking in a room that had never known light. A glow that had been waiting inside the walls all along, held back only because the room was too full to let it spread. So let that be the thread we follow tonight, slowly, with nowhere to be. We will wander through 4 wide rooms of this story, and you do not need to remember any of them. We will sit for a while with the strange early universe, that crowded, glowing fog, and feel what it would have been like to be inside something too bright to see through. We will follow the great cooling, the slow easing of heat that finally let the first light slip free and travel. The moment scientists call the release of the oldest light there is. We will drift through how clever, patient people, lying awake in their own way, learned to catch the faint last whisper of that first light still arriving today. A glow so faint and so even that it fills the whole sky. And we will end where all of this becomes personal, in the quiet realization that the warmth of that first glow is, in a real and literal way, woven into the atoms that are resting in your hands right now. If this kind of wondering helps you drift off, a like or a subscribe helps the channel reach others who are also lying awake. Others who are also turning a vast question over in the dark and hoping it will soften into sleep. There is no rush to do it. You can let it happen later, or not at all. And none of this is anything you need to hold on to. You do not need to follow the science. You do not need to keep the words. You do not need to arrive anywhere by the end. The whole point is to let your mind have something wide and harmless to rest against, while your body lets go of the day. So, settle in. Let your shoulders ease down from wherever they have been holding all day, a little lower than you think they can go. Let the weight of your head be fully given to whatever is beneath it. Let your jaw loosen. Let your hands grow heavy. Let the breath you are breathing slow down on its own, without you doing anything to it at all. Imagine the dark around you, not as emptiness, but as the inside of that early room, warm and close and patient, holding a glow that is just beginning to wake. Let's begin. To find the first light, we have to go back further than light itself, back to a time when the universe was simply too hot to allow it. This is hard to picture, and it does not need to be pictured perfectly, so let the image be loose and forgiving. Imagine that everything you have ever seen, every star, every grain of sand, every breath in every body, was once pressed together into a space far smaller and unthinkably warmer than it is now. Not crowded the way a busy room is crowded, but crowded the way the inside of a glowing coal is crowded, where there is no gap, no edge, no outside, only heat and brightness pressed against itself in every direction at once. In that earliest time, the universe was not dark at all. It was flooded with light. And yet, in the strangest part of the whole story, that flood of light could not actually go anywhere. It could not travel. It could not be seen, because there was nothing standing apart from it to do the seeing, and because the light itself was trapped, bouncing endlessly between particles too thick and too restless to let it pass. The early universe was the brightest thing that has ever been, and it was, for that very reason, opaque. It helps to think about what light needs in order to travel, because we so rarely have to ask. In an ordinary room tonight, light crosses from the lamp to the wall to your eye without you ever wondering how it manages it. It manages it because the air between is mostly empty, mostly open, mostly transparent, so a ray can slip across the gap without being grabbed and turned aside. But in the first universe, there were no gaps. The whole of space was filled with a thick, hot soup of the smallest pieces of matter, electrons and the bare hearts of atoms, all loose, all separate, all electrically charged. And charged particles are exactly the things that catch light and fling it back. A ray of light born in that soup would travel no distance at all before it struck something and changed direction, and then struck something again and again, scattered so constantly that it never really went anywhere. The light was everywhere, and yet it was imprisoned, like a glow held inside the thickness of a wall, present in every brick, yet unable to reach the room beyond. This was the room that had never known light, not because it was dark, but because it was too bright and too full for the light to ever come free. There is something almost soothing in that idea when you stop fearing it. We tend to imagine the early cosmos as violent, and in the language of physics, it certainly was extreme. But extremity is not the same as cruelty, and heat is not the same as harm. Picture it instead as a vast warm sea with no shore and no surface, an even golden fog that fills all of being, the same in every direction, holding no sharp corners and no sudden edges, nothing to fall from and nothing to fear. There was no up, no down, no place that was different from any other place. Everywhere was the same warm brightness, pressing in like the most complete embrace, a uniform glow, with no eye yet made to witness it, and no shadow yet possible inside it. If you could have floated there, which of course you could not, you would have been wrapped on every side by an unbroken light, warm against you, like the inside of a closed hand held up to the sun. Nothing was hidden because nothing could hide. Everything simply was, all at once, hushed in the particular way that a thing is hushed when it has not yet learned to make a sound. And all the while, slowly, almost imperceptibly, the room was beginning to ease. The universe was expanding, stretching wider with every passing moment, and as it stretched, the heat within it had more space to fill, and so it began, very slowly, to thin and to cool. This is the first turning of our story, and it is a tender one, because the first light was not waiting to be made. It was already there, woven through everything, waiting only for the room to open enough to let it move. The whole long opening act of the universe is really just the story of a glow that already existed, held inside walls that were finally, patiently, beginning to thin. Stay there with it a moment longer, in that warm and even brightness, and let yourself thin a little too. Let the day's heat in your own body begin to ease and spread and soften toward rest. Let us stay with that cooling now, because it is the heart of how the first light came free, and because there is nothing in it that needs to hurry. Picture the universe in those early ages not as a fixed place, but as something always loosening, always relaxing, like a held breath being slowly let go across spans of time so long that the numbers stop meaning anything and only the feeling remains. As space stretched, the temperature fell, not in a sudden plunge but in a long, even decline, the way a room cools through a winter night while everyone in it sleeps, degree by patient degree, with no one watching the thermometer. For the first fractions of a second, the heat was beyond all imagining. After a single second, it had eased to something merely tremendous. After minutes, it had cooled enough for the first simple cores of matter to begin to form and hold together, the lightest building blocks of everything that would ever exist, knit quietly out of the thinning fire. And then came a long, slow stretch, hundreds of thousands of years of it, during which almost nothing dramatic happened at all, only the steady, faithful cooling. The universe growing wider and cooler, and a little less crowded with every age that passed. 300,000 years. Then 400,000. We say these numbers so lightly, but try, just for a breath, to feel the patience inside them. For all that immense span of time, the light remained trapped, scattering endlessly among the loose charged particles, everywhere at once, and unable to travel. Nothing in the universe was in a hurry. There was no clock and no one to read it, no deadline, no event that had to happen by any particular moment. There was only the warm room, slowly, slowly thinning, and the glow inside it, waiting with a patience that had no impatience underneath it, because waiting was simply what there was to do. If you have ever lain awake in the small hours and felt time stretch long and strange around you, you have felt a faint echo of those ages, the sense of a vast quiet duration in which nothing is demanded and nothing is late. The universe was not anxious to begin. It took all the time there was, because all the time there was belonged to it, and it spent that time the way a sleeper spends the deepest hour of the night, doing nothing, becoming everything. And as it cooled, a threshold was approaching, though nothing in the universe could have known it. There is a particular temperature, a particular degree of warmth, at which the loose electrons that had been flinging the light about for so long finally slow down enough to be caught and held. Above that temperature, they are too restless, too energetic, jittering free and refusing to settle. But cool just past it, and something tender happens. The bare cores of the lightest atoms, which had been drifting alone, are at last able to reach out and gather electrons to themselves, to hold them close in steady, settled orbits, and in doing so, they become, for the first time, whole and complete atoms, calm and neutral and electrically quiet. This is the moment that changes everything. And yet it is one of the most peaceful moments in the entire history of the cosmos. It is the moment when the restless particles finally settle down. It is the moment when the loose, jittering crowd that had kept the light imprisoned simply eases and pairs off and grows still. It is the moment the room, after all those ages of being too full, finally has room. Scientists have a long word for this gathering. A word that means the joining of electrons to atomic cores, but you do not need the word, and tonight it is enough to feel the shape of it. Imagine a vast restless crowd that has stood pressed together for as long as anyone can remember, every body jostling every other, no one able to pass through, the whole space a wall of motion. And then, ever so slowly, the crowd begins to tire. The jostling eases. People find a partner, settle into stillness, lower themselves to rest, until the standing wall of bodies becomes a wide field of resting forms, and between them, suddenly, there are gaps, there are openings. There are long, clear paths where before there had been none, and the light, which had been trapped inside that wall of motion for the whole age of the world, finds the openings and slips through, and for the very first time it travels free. The first warm glow, which had been waking inside a room that had never known light, finally spills across the open floor and reaches the far wall, and the room, at long last, can be seen. Let that easing happen in you as well. This long crowd of a day finally tiring, finally settling, finally finding the openings between one breath and the next. This moment, when the light first slipped free and crossed open space, is the closest thing the universe has to a first dawn, and it deserves to be lingered over slowly. Astronomers sometimes call it the moment the universe became transparent, which is a beautiful and accurate phrase, though it can sound technical until you sit with what it really means. Before that moment, you could not have seen across the universe even an inch, because everywhere your gaze tried to go, it would have been turned back, scattered, lost in the thick warm fog. After that moment, you could have seen forever. The fog did not blow away. It simply cleared from within, all at once and everywhere at the same time, as the last loose particles found their stillness and let go of the light they had been holding. In the space of what was, on cosmic scales, a single soft breath, the universe changed from a glowing wall into an open sky, and the light that had been imprisoned, the oldest light there is, set out at last across the new clear distances, traveling in every direction at once, filling all of space with the first true illumination that had ever been free to move. Think of what that light was like at the moment of its release, because it was not harsh, and it was not blinding. By the time the universe had cooled enough to free it, that ancient glow had mellowed to a warm reddish orange, the color of the last of a fire when the flames have gone and only the embers remain, the color of a low lamp seen through closed eyelids, the color the inside of a tent takes on at sunset when the canvas glows and everything within it turns gold and rose and amber. The whole universe, in that first dawn, was bathed in that warm ember light. Every part of it the same tender hue, no brighter in one place than another, no glare and no shadow, only an even, all-surrounding warmth. If you could have opened your eyes inside the universe on that first transparent day, you would not have squinted or flinched. You would have found yourself floating in a boundless room filled edge to edge with the warmth of a banked fire. A glow with no source, because it was the source. A light that did not come from any one direction, because it came from everywhere. It would have felt, more than anything, like being held inside warmth, like the first warm glow had not only woken in the room, but had spread to fill every corner of it, and you with it. And then, over the long ages that followed, that warm dawn did something that sounds sad at first, but is, when you understand it, one of the most reassuring facts in all of science. It faded. Not because it was extinguished, for nothing put it out, but because the universe kept expanding, kept stretching wider and wider, and as space itself grew, the light traveling through it was stretched along with it, its waves drawn longer and longer, its warm ember orange sliding down through red and into colors the eye can no longer catch, cooling and dimming with the same patient inevitability as everything else. The first light was never destroyed. It was only stretched, gentled, spread thinner and thinner across an ever larger room, until its warmth dropped below the threshold of sight and became something more like a memory of warmth than warmth itself. But it is still here. This is the part that matters, the part to hold loosely as you drift. That first light, the oldest light in the universe, the glow that woke when the room first cleared, has been traveling without pause for nearly 14 billion years, and it has never stopped, and it has never arrived anywhere final, and it is, at this very moment, passing through the space all around you, faint and stretched and ancient and entirely harmless, a tide of the universe's first dawn, washing endlessly through the dark. There is a tenderness in realizing that the oldest thing you could ever encounter is also one of the most peaceful. We sometimes imagine that the deep past must be frightening, that the beginning of everything must have been a place of terror. And it is true that the early universe was hotter and stranger than anything we will ever touch. But the first light, the thing that finally came free, was not an explosion outward into emptiness. It was a settling, a clearing, a softening. It was the moment the universe stopped being too full to see and became, instead, a place where seeing was possible. It was the room finally cool enough, finally open enough, finally calm enough to let its own glow spread across it and rest on every surface at once. And that ancient glow is so faint now, so far cooled from its first warmth, that to meet it you would have to listen for it the way you listen for a sound at the very edge of hearing, the way you listen in a quiet house at night for the faint settling of the walls. Let your own listening grow that fine and that unhurried now, reaching out for nothing, simply open, simply easy, as the oldest light in the universe passes through you and through the room and onward into the night. It is worth drifting, for a little while, through the story of how anyone ever found this ancient glow, because it is a very human story, full of patience and accident, and the particular kind of wonder that comes to people who are willing to keep looking when others have stopped. For most of human history, no one knew the first light existed at all. People looked up at the night and saw the stars, and the stars seemed like the oldest, deepest things there could be, scattered across a darkness that was simply assumed to be empty. The idea that the darkness itself might be glowing, faintly, evenly, with the leftover warmth of the beginning of everything, would have sounded like a dream. And in a way it began as one, as a thought, a piece of reasoning worked out with pencil and patience by people who realized that if the universe had truly begun hot and dense, and had been cooling and expanding ever since, then the first light set free in that cooling should still be out there, stretched and faded but never gone, filling all of space with a faint, even glow. They predicted it before anyone had seen it. They described the temperature it should have cooled to, a temperature just barely above the coldest cold there is, and then, for a while, the prediction simply waited, the way the light itself had waited, for the right moment to be noticed. The way it was finally found is one of the gentlest accidents in the history of science. Two careful people were working with a large, sensitive antenna, a great horn of metal built to listen to faint signals from the sky, and they kept finding a low, steady hum that they could not get rid of. It was there during the day, and there at night. It was there no matter which direction they pointed the antenna. It came from everywhere in the sky equally, a soft and constant whisper underneath everything they tried to measure. At first they were sure it must be a flaw, some fault in their equipment, some noise they had failed to clean away. They checked every connection. They cooled their instruments. They even, famously, climbed inside the great horn and patiently cleaned out the nests that pigeons had built there, scrubbing away every trace, certain that the hum must be coming from something close and ordinary and fixable. But when everything was clean and cold, and checked a dozen times over, the hum was still there, faint and even, and refusing to leave, coming from all directions at once with a perfect, patient sameness. They had been trying to remove a flaw, and instead they had stumbled onto the oldest light in the universe, the faint, stretched whisper of that first dawn, arriving at last after nearly 14 billion years to hum quietly in a metal horn on a hill. There is something so tender in that the most ancient light there is announced itself not as a blaze or a vision, but as a hum that two tired people first mistook for a nuisance. It did not demand to be found. It simply kept arriving, evenly and without insistence, the way it always had, the way it always will, until someone finally grew quiet enough and careful enough to recognize it for what it was. And when they did recognize it, when they understood that the faint hum filling their antenna was the same faint warmth that filled the whole sky and the whole of space, the realization changed how we understand everything. It confirmed that the universe really had begun in that warm, dense, glowing state, and really had cooled and cleared, and really had set its first light free to travel forever. The dream that had been worked out with pencil and patience turned out to be true, and the proof of it had been raining down on every rooftop and every field and every sleeping head the whole time, gentle and unnoticed, waiting only to be heard. Since then, people have built ever more careful instruments to listen to that ancient glow, lifting them on balloons to the edge of the air and launching them out into space where the listening is clearer, mapping the faint warmth across the entire sky with more and more tenderness. And what they have found, again and again, is how astonishingly even it is, how nearly the same in every direction, the whole sky glowing at almost exactly the same faint temperature, as though the universe really had been, in its first dawn, a single warm room, with no corner warmer than any other. The tiny differences they have measured, the faintest ripples of slightly warmer and slightly cooler, turn out to be the seeds from which everything later grew. The first faint unevenness from which galaxies and stars and worlds, and eventually, you would one day gather. But the overwhelming impression, the thing that comes through every map and every measurement, is the deep, restful evenness of it. The sense of a beginning that was not chaos, but warmth. Not violence, but a vast and patient sameness. The first glow filling its room so completely that even now, across all of time, you can still feel how evenly it was once held. Let that evenness settle over you now. The knowledge that the oldest map of everything is, at its heart, a map of warmth spread smooth across the dark. Now let yourself drift somewhere for a while. Somewhere you do not have to think, where you only have to be carried. Imagine that you are floating, lightly and safely, in that first transparent dawn, in the very moment the universe became clear. You do not have to do anything to stay there. There is no falling here, because there is no down, no surface beneath you to drop toward, and no height above you to fear. There is only the warmth, surrounding you on every side, holding you the way water holds a body that has finally stopped trying to swim and simply lets the water do the holding. Feel the first light all around you, that warm ember glow filling the whole of space, resting against your skin like the heat of a low fire felt from across a room, easy and even and asking nothing. You are not separate from it. You are inside it, suspended in it, carried by it, a small resting thing held in an immense tender warmth that stretches further than you could ever travel in every direction at once. There is no weight here. The tiredness you carried into this night, the small aches and the held tensions, the long list of the day that pressed on your shoulders, none of it has any hold in this place, because there is nothing here for weight to pull against. You simply float. Let your arms be weightless. Let your legs be weightless. Let the back of your neck and the small of your back and the whole long line of your spine be weightless, given over completely to the warmth that holds you, the way a leaf is given over to a slow current, the way a single mote of dust is given over to a shaft of afternoon light, turning slowly, drifting easily, going nowhere, and entirely content to go nowhere. The first light is carrying you now, the oldest light there is, and it has been traveling for nearly 14 billion years, and it is in no hurry at all. And you may travel with it for a while, drifting at the speed of something that has all the time in the world. Picture the warmth moving slowly through you and around you, like a tide that has no shore, rising through your feet and easing up through your ankles and your shins, rising through your knees and your thighs, a warm and weightless tide that loosens everything it passes, rising through your hips and your belly, and the slow rise and fall of your chest, rising through your shoulders and down the length of your arms to the very tips of your fingers, rising at last through your throat and your jaw and the small muscles around your eyes and across the wide, quiet plain of your forehead, until the whole of you is floating in the same even warmth, held edge to edge in the first light of the universe, with nothing left anywhere in your body that is working, or waiting, or holding on. You are being carried. You do not have to row. You do not have to steer. The first warm glow that woke in a room that had never known light has filled the room completely now, and it has reached you, and it is holding you, and it is carrying you slowly through the deepest, most peaceful distance there has ever been. And as you drift there, notice how the warmth does not demand your attention. It does not ask you to look at it, or to admire it, or to understand it. It simply surrounds you, the way the most familiar comfort surrounds you, present whether you attend to it or not. You could let your thoughts wander wherever they like, and the warmth would still be there. You could stop picturing it altogether, and it would still be there. This is the kindness of the first light, that it holds you without needing to be held in return, that it carries you without asking to be carried, that it asks nothing of you at all except that you let yourself be borne along. So let your mind grow loose and slow. Let any picture you are holding begin to blur at its edges. Let the warmth blur with it, until there is no separation between the one who is floating and the warmth that floats them, until you are not so much imagining the first light as resting inside it, carried on a tide that has been flowing peacefully since before there were eyes to see it, or hands to feel it, or minds to wonder where it came from. There is nowhere you need to arrive. There is only this slow, warm, endless drifting, and you are held within it, and you are safe. After that first dawn cleared and the oldest light set out across the open universe, something curious happened, or rather, for a long while, almost nothing happened at all, and that long almost nothing has a beauty of its own. Once the warm fog had thinned and the light had gone free, the universe entered a span that astronomers sometimes call the Dark Ages, though the name sounds far more lonely than the reality was. The first dawn had faded as the universe expanded and cooled, stretching that warm ember glow down out of sight, and the first stars had not yet been born. And so for a long, hushed age, the universe drifted through a kind of dim twilight, filled with vast, slow clouds of the simplest matter. drifting and gathering and waiting in the deep low light. It was not empty, and it was not frightening. It was more like a wide field in the hour before the very first sunrise, when the night has paled, but the sun has not yet risen. When everything waits in a soft gray hush, full of potential, holding its breath in the most unworried way, sure that the light is coming, even though it has not yet come. And the light did come, in a new form this time, made rather than released. In those vast drifting clouds, here and there, the matter began to gather more thickly, drawn together over unimaginable spans of time by the patient pull that all matter has for all other matter, gathering and condensing, and growing denser and warmer at the heart, slowly, slowly, with no hurry and no will, until at the very center of one of those gathering clouds, the pressure and the warmth grew so great that something kindled. A first star woke. Deep in the heart of that gathered cloud, the simplest matter began to fuse and to shine, and a new kind of light, the light of a true star, the first starlight there had ever been, spilled out into the long twilight and reached across the dark. After the first light that was released, this was the first light that was born, and then another woke, and another, scattered across the dim field like the first lamps coming on across a darkening valley, each one a small warm glow waking in a room that had, until that moment, never known that particular light. There is something deeply restful in the slowness of it, in knowing that the universe did not rush from its first dawn into a sky full of stars. It took its time. It drifted through its long twilight for 100 million years and more, gathering itself without anxiety, letting the clouds thicken at their own unhurried pace, lighting its first stars one by one rather than all at once. We so often feel, in our own lives, that things should happen quickly, that a beginning should lead straight to a blaze, that the time between the spark and the fire is time wasted. But the universe shows us a different patience. Its first dawn was followed not by a sudden glory, but by a long, quiet gathering, an age of drifting and waiting, in which everything that would later shine was slowly, faithfully coming together in the dark. The waiting was not wasted. The waiting was the work. And the stars, when they finally woke into a universe that had been patiently preparing a place for them all along. And those first stars did something tender, almost parental, for everything that would come after. Inside their hearts, in the warmth of their burning, they forged new kinds of matter that had never existed before, heavier and richer than the simple stuff the universe had begun with. The very kinds of matter that would one day be needed to make worlds and water and living things. And when those first stars came at last to the end of their lives, they did not simply vanish. They scattered. They gave back. They returned the new matter they had made to the drifting clouds, seeding the darkness with the ingredients of everything that would follow, so that the next generation of stars and the worlds that gathered around them would be made of richer stuff than the first. Each generation of light, in this way, prepared the next, each first glow making it possible for a warmer and fuller glow to wake after it, the room growing not only brighter over the ages, but kinder, more furnished, more ready to hold the things that would one day need holding. There is a lineage to light, a long, patient handing down of warmth from one age to the next, and you are, in the most literal way, the inheritor of all of it. Rest in that lineage now, knowing that every light that ever woke was, in its way, preparing the room for you. It might be worth wondering, in a slow and unworried way, what light even is, since we have been following it so faithfully through the dark. We live with light so constantly that we almost never ask, the way we rarely ask what air is, or what time is, simply moving through them as the medium of our lives. But light is a genuinely strange and lovely thing, and understanding it a little only makes the first dawn more tender. Light is, in the plainest terms, a way that energy moves through space. A ripple, a wave, a traveling disturbance that needs nothing to carry it, that can cross the most complete emptiness without anything to ride upon. Sound needs air to travel through, and water needs its banks, but light needs nothing at all. It can cross the entire width of the universe through pure emptiness, never tiring, never slowing, carrying its small warmth across distances so vast that the numbers dissolve. The first light, when it came free, set out across that emptiness and has been crossing it ever since, needing nothing, asking nothing, simply traveling, the most self-sufficient and undemanding traveler there has ever been. And light comes in a great many kinds, most of which your eyes can never see, which is one of the gentlest secrets of the world. The light you see, the colors of a sunset, and the glow of a lamp and the silver of the moon, is only a narrow band in a vast spectrum, a single warm octave in an enormous song. Beyond the red that your eye can just catch, there is light too long and slow for seeing. The warmth you feel from a fire even with your eyes closed, the gentle radiance that a warm body gives off in a dark room, and beyond the violet at the other edge, there is light too short and quick to see, energetic and brisk. The first dawn, when it came free, glowed in the warm visible band, that ember orange we imagined earlier. But as the universe stretched, its light was drawn longer and longer until it slipped out of the visible entirely and into that slow, warm, invisible band beyond the red. And so the oldest light in the universe is, today, a kind you cannot see with your eyes, only feel with the most careful instruments, a faint warmth filling all of space that your body is bathed in constantly and never notices, the way you do not notice the air. You are, at this very moment, sitting inside the cooled and invisible glow of the first dawn. And it is touching you as evenly as it touches everything, and there is nothing you need to do about it but rest. There is a particular comfort in learning that the universe is full of light you cannot see. We sometimes feel, in the dark, that darkness is the absence of everything, a true and total nothing. But there is almost no true darkness anywhere. The night sky that looks so black between the stars is, to the right kind of eye, glowing faintly and evenly all over with the warmth of the first dawn. The space between the planets, the space between the stars, the space between the galaxies, all of it is filled with that ancient gentle radiance, faint and stretched and invisible, but genuinely there. A low warmth woven through the whole of the dark. The darkness you are lying in tonight is not empty. It is full. It is full of the oldest light there is, passing through it endlessly. A tide of warmth from the beginning of everything that fills the space around your bed, and the space inside the walls, and the space stretching up past the roof into the night, all of it glowing, all of it warm, all of it carrying the faint and faithful memory of the first dawn. You are not lying in the dark. You are lying in a sea of ancient light too gentle for your eyes to catch. And here is a thought to rest against, soft and strange and true. Because light takes time to travel, and because the distances of the universe are so vast, every time you look out into space, you are looking into the past. The light from the stars you can see left them long ago, so that the night sky is not a picture of how things are, but of how things were, a layered tapestry of different ages all arriving at once. And the very deepest layer of all, the furthest back you can ever see, is that first dawn, the oldest light, arriving now after its immense journey, showing you the universe as it was on the day it first became clear. To look for the first light is to look as far back in time as it is possible to look, all the way to the edge of seeing, to the warm wall of that first dawn beyond which there is no light to be had, because beyond it the universe was far too bright and too full to let any light come free. You can look back to the moment the room first cleared, and no further, because before that moment there was no seeing, only the warm and patient fog. The first light is, quite literally, the horizon of all sight, the furthest and oldest thing there is, and it is arriving even now, tender and warm. Let your mind rest at that horizon now, at the edge of all seeing, where the oldest warmth is always quietly arriving, and there is nothing beyond it to fear. Let us sit for a while with the sheer scale of all this, because scale is the kind of thing that can frighten in the daylight and comfort in the dark, and tonight we are going to let it comfort. The first light has been traveling for nearly 14 billion years. That number is so large that it cannot really be felt, only approached, and there is no need to feel it fully. But consider, slowly, what it means that the warmth still arriving in the space around you tonight set out before the Earth existed, before the Sun existed, before the gathering cloud that would one day become our whole solar system had even begun to gather. The first light is older than every mountain and every sea, older than the oldest stone, older than the planet beneath your bed by more than 9 billion years. It was already ancient and already traveling when our world was still nothing more than scattered dust waiting to be drawn together. And it is here now, in this room, having crossed all of that time to arrive. And it has not been worn down by the journey. And it has not been impatient. And it does not arrive demanding anything. It simply arrives, evenly, faithfully, the way it always has. And against that vastness, you might expect to feel small, and perhaps you do. But smallness in the dark is not the frightening thing it can seem to be by day. To be small inside something so old and so vast and so even is not to be lost. It is to be held. Think of how it feels to be a child carried up to bed by someone much larger and stronger, half asleep already. Your whole weight given over to arms you trust completely, going wherever you are carried, sure of nothing except that you are safe. That is the kind of smallness the first light offers. You are small inside it, the way a sleeping child is small inside a warm house, the way a single drop is small inside a calm sea, the way one breath is small inside a long and steady night of breathing. The vastness is not bearing down on you. It is holding you up. The 14 billion years are not a weight pressing on your chest. They are a long, deep foundation beneath you. The most enormous and patient steadiness, holding you the way the oldest ground holds the newest grass. You do not have to be large to belong here. You belong here precisely as you are, small and resting and held. A tiny warm thing inside a vast warm thing, both of you glowing faintly, both of you content. There is a further comfort still, and it is the most personal one, the place where this whole long story comes home to rest in your own body. Remember that the first stars forged new kinds of matter in their hearts and scattered them through the dark when their lives ended, and that those richer materials gathered into new stars and new worlds. The matter that makes you, the atoms in your bones, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your teeth, The very particles resting in your hands as you lie here were all made in the hearts of stars that lived and died long before our sun was born. You are not separate from the story of the first light. You are its continuation. The warmth that woke in that first dawn, the lineage of glow handed down from age to age, runs straight through you. You are, quite literally, made of the leftover light of the universe, gathered up over billions of years and shaped for a little while into a resting body that can wonder about where it came from. The first warm glow that woke in a room that had never known light did not stop with the room. It became stars, and the stars became worlds, and the worlds became seas, and the seas became living things, and the living things became, eventually, you. Lying here in the dark, breathing slowly, carrying the ancient warmth forward without even trying. So when you wonder what the very first light in the universe was, you can answer in a way that is both scientifically true and deeply tender, that it was the beginning of you. It was the first warmth that ever came free, the first glow that ever crossed an open space, the start of a long lineage of light that has been handed down faithfully across nearly 14 billion years and has arrived tonight, here, in the rise and fall of your own breath. You do not have to understand it to be part of it. You do not have to remember it to be made of it. You are the room that the first glow was always, patiently, slowly, kindly waking toward. And now that you have arrived, now that the long story has reached you, there is nothing left for you to do but rest and let the warmth that made you carry you down into sleep. Let yourself feel, just faintly, the deep kinship between the warmth in your own resting body and the ancient warmth filling all of space. The same warmth, the same lineage, the same long, slow glow, holding you now as it has held everything from the beginning. Let us go back once more to the very beginning, but this time slowly, moment by moment, the way you might walk back through a quiet house turning off the lamps, one by one. The first second of the universe is a thing scientists have studied with extraordinary care, and inside that single second, a great deal unfolded, though all of it was warmth and motion, and nothing of it was anything you would need to flinch from. In the very first sliver of that first second, far too small a sliver to have any name in ordinary life, the universe was so hot and so dense that the kinds of matter we know had not yet settled into being. There was only energy, only a seething warmth, a brightness without form, the raw beginning of everything held in a state too extreme for any structure to last. And then, almost at once, it began to ease. The cooling that would continue for billions of years began in that first instant, and as the warmth thinned, the first particles of matter began to take shape out of the energy, condensing the way dew condenses out of warm air as the night grows cool, appearing softly from what had been only formless warmth. By the time a single full second had passed, the universe had already cooled enough for the lightest, most fundamental pieces of matter to exist freely, drifting in the still tremendous heat. And over the next few minutes, just a handful of minutes, no longer than it might take you to drift from waking toward the edge of sleep, those pieces began to find one another and join, building the first simple cores of the lightest elements, the hydrogen and helium that would go on to make up nearly everything. It is a remarkable thing to sit with, that the basic ingredients of all the stars that would ever shine were assembled in the first few minutes of the universe, knitted together in the cooling fire, while everything was still impossibly warm. And then that brief season of building ended, the universe having cooled past the point where such building could continue, And there began the long, patient stretch we spoke of before. The hundreds of thousands of years of slow cooling during which the light remained trapped and the universe waited, warm and crowded and unhurried, for the threshold of clearing to arrive. What I find so restful in this, and what I hope you might too, is how the universe never rushed and never lurched. Even in its most extreme beginning, even in that first searing second, everything proceeded by easing, by cooling, by thinning, by settling. There was no moment of violence in the way we usually mean violence. No tearing, no breaking, no harm. There was only a vast warmth growing gradually less vast, a brightness growing gradually less bright, a crowd growing gradually less crowded, each stage flowing into the next as naturally as one breath flows into the one after it. The universe was, from its very first instant, a thing in the act of relaxing. It began tense and warm and tightly held, and the entire story of it ever since, all 14 billion years, has been one long, continuous loosening, one immense exhale spread across all of time. And you are part of that exhale. The slowing of your own breath tonight, the easing of your own muscles, the gradual cooling of your own thoughts toward sleep is a small and faithful echo of the universe's own oldest movement. The same loosening, the same letting go, the same long relaxation that has been unfolding since the very beginning. So as you lie here, you might let your own body follow the universe's example, easing the way it eased, cooling the way it cooled, settling the way it settled. There is no threshold you must reach by any particular moment. There is no clearing you must force. There is only the slow, faithful thinning of the day's heat, the gradual loosening of everything you have been holding, the patient cooling of a busy mind toward the stillness in which sleep can finally come free. The universe took hundreds of thousands of years to clear, and it was in no hurry, and neither are you. You can take all the time you need. You can let the easing happen at its own pace, breath by breath. The warmth of the day thinning slowly into the cool of the night, until somewhere in that easing, without your ever noticing the exact moment, the room of your own mind will clear, and the first light of sleep will slip free and travel and carry you down. Let it approach as slowly as it likes. There is nothing to do but cool and thin and ease and wait, the way the whole universe once waited, warm and patient and entirely unafraid. Let us return for a while to those tender maps of the first light, the ones that careful people have made by listening to the ancient warmth from every direction, because there is a deep comfort hidden in what they show. When you spread that oldest light across the whole sky and look at it as a single picture, what you see is an almost perfectly even glow, the same faint warmth in every direction. So even that for a long time it looked entirely featureless, a uniform field with no marks upon it at all. The universe at its first dawn was smooth almost beyond belief, warm to the same degree in places that were, even then, unthinkably far apart, as though the whole of being had been one single room held at one single temperature, with no draft and no cold corner anywhere. There is something in that perfect evenness that the body seems to recognize, a sense of a world without sharp edges, without sudden changes, without anything jarring or harsh, a beginning that was, above all else, smooth. And yet within that smoothness, when the instruments grew sensitive enough, the most delicate ripples appeared, differences so tiny that they are almost not differences at all. Places where the first warmth was a hair warmer, and places where it was a hair cooler, faint patterns spread across the whole sky, like the gentlest texture in a still pond. These ripples are precious beyond measure, because they are the seeds of everything. In the places where the first light was a touch warmer, matter was very slightly more gathered. And over the long ages, those slightly gathered places drew more matter to themselves, and grew, and became the clouds that became the stars and the galaxies, while the slightly emptier places stretched into the great calm voids between them. The whole structure of the universe, every galaxy and every cluster of galaxies, every island of stars scattered across the dark, grew from those faint first ripples in the warmth of the first dawn. You can look at the oldest map there is and see, written in the gentlest texture, the first faint blueprint of everything that would ever gather, including, eventually, the gathering that became you. There is a kind of tenderness in knowing that everything grand grew from something so faint. We tend to imagine that great things must have great beginnings, that mountains must start as mountains, and stars must start as stars. But the truth is gentler than that. The grandest structures in all the universe, the vast luminous wheels of the galaxies, the great chains and walls of them stretching across distances the mind cannot hold, all of it grew from ripples in the first light so faint that you could have stared at the early universe forever and never seen them with an unaided eye. The beginning of everything enormous was something nearly imperceptible, a whisper of warmth, a fraction warmer here, a fraction cooler there, patient enough to grow over billions of years into all that is, and so there is no need for your own beginnings of rest to be grand or sudden either. The smallest easing tonight, the faintest loosening of a single muscle, the slightest slowing of a single breath, is a seed, exactly as those first faint ripples were seeds, and it will gather and grow, slowly and faithfully, into the full deep rest that is coming, the way a ripple of warmth once grew into a galaxy. I love, too, that the people who study the first light describe it not as a thing they discovered once and finished with, but as a thing they keep returning to, listening more and more carefully, finding in it always a little more tenderness, a little more detail, a little more of the story of where everything came from. It is the most studied light there is, and also, in a way, the most patient, because it has been arriving steadily all along, never changing its pace, never growing louder, never demanding to be noticed, content to wait through all of human history until we built ears fine enough to hear it. And it asks nothing of us still. It does not need us to understand it. It does not need us to map it. It simply keeps arriving, the way it always has, the way it always will, long after every map is forgotten, a faithful warmth from the beginning of everything reigning endlessly and harmlessly through the dark. Let that faithfulness comfort you now. The knowledge that the oldest light has been arriving without fail since before there was anyone to wait for it, and that it is arriving still, around your bed and through your walls and across the whole quiet sky, asking nothing of you but that you rest. People sometimes ask what came before the first light, what came before the beginning. And it is a question worth holding loosely tonight, not because it has a frightening answer, but because it has such a tender one. When we follow the universe backward, cooling becoming warming, thinning becoming crowding, we reach a point so warm and so dense that our usual ways of describing things gently dissolve, a horizon beyond which the very ideas of before and after begin to lose their footing. And here is where the question becomes restful rather than dizzying, because what we find is not a wall of terror, but a place where the questions themselves grow quiet. Time, as far as we can tell, may have begun with the universe, the way the inside of a room begins with its walls, so that asking what came before the first light may be a little like asking what is north of the northernmost point, a question that simply runs gently out of meaning. Not because something is hidden, but because there is no more direction left to point. There may be no before to fear, no dark waiting room, no cold emptiness preceding the warmth. There may be only the warmth, and the time that began with it, all of it one piece, with no frightening outside. There is a quiet relief in that, in the idea that the beginning was not preceded by a long, lonely dark. We so often imagine that before the first light there must have been an endless blackness, a void waiting in the cold, and the thought can make the night feel emptier than it is. But the universe seems to suggest something kinder, that the dark we imagine before the beginning may never have existed at all, that there was no long, cold wait, only the warmth arriving as the first thing there ever was, the first warm glow waking, not in a room that had grown cold and empty over endless ages, but in a room that simply began, all at once, already warm, already glowing, already holding the seed of everything within it. The beginning was not a lamp lit in an old, dark house. The beginning was the house and the lamp and the warmth coming into being together, with no dark before and no cold around, only the gentle starting of everything at once. You do not have to carry the weight of an imagined void. There may never have been one. There may only ever have been the warmth. And this, too, can ease something in the body, the sense that the dark you are lying in tonight is not a vast cold nothing pressing in from outside, but simply the inside of a warm and complete room, with no frightening exterior, no cold edge, no emptiness waiting beyond the walls. The universe does not have an outside that we need to fear. It has no cold border, no lonely rim, no dark sea surrounding it into which anything could fall. It is, as far as we can tell, complete in itself, warm throughout, holding everything it has ever held, with nothing left out and nowhere to be lost to. You are not lying at the edge of a frightening emptiness. You are lying deep within a complete and warm hole, surrounded on every side by more of the same warmth, more of the same ancient light, more of the same gentle belonging, with nothing beyond it that could ever reach in to trouble you. The room of the universe has no cold corridor leading away from it. It is all room, all warmth, all the way through. So let any old fear of the dark loosen its grip a little tonight. The dark is not the absence of the first light. The dark is full of the first light, soaked through with the cooled and gentle warmth of the beginning, a darkness that is really only light grown too faint to see. And there is no void waiting behind it, no cold emptiness it is hiding, no frightening before from which it came. There is only the warmth, beginning when time began, glowing ever since, cooled now to the gentle hush that fills your room and your night and your slowing breath. The first light did not come into a frightening dark. The first light was the beginning, and there was nothing dreadful before it and nothing dreadful around it. Only warmth, only glow, only the quiet starting of a universe that would one day, after 14 billion years of patient cooling, hold you here in the dark and keep you safe. Let that be the truth you rest against now, that there is no terror at the beginning and no void at the edge, only warmth, all the way back and all the way out, holding you completely. Let us follow, just for a while, the journey of a single ray of that first light, one small thread of the ancient warmth, from the moment it came free until the moment it reaches you tonight, because there is a deep peace in the patience of such a journey. Imagine that ray born on the day the universe cleared, slipping at last through the new openings between the settling particles. setting out across the freshly transparent dark. At first, the universe around it is still close and warm, glowing that ember orange, the room only just cleared. The ray travels, and as it travels, the room grows. Space stretches around it, slowly, faithfully, so that even as the ray moves forward, the distance ahead of it grows longer, the way a path might lengthen beneath the feet of a walker who is in no hurry and does not mind. The ray does not tire, it does not slow. It simply continues, age after age, while around it the universe drifts through its long twilight, while the first stars kindle and the first galaxies gather, while worlds form and seas fill, and living things begin their slow climb toward wondering. Through all of it, the ray travels on, carrying its small thread of the first warmth, stretched longer and longer by the growing room, cooling from orange to red to the slow warmth beyond all seeing. But never stopping, never lost, never anything but faithful. And after nearly 14 billion years of that patient travel, after crossing a distance that no mind can truly hold, the ray arrives. It reaches the small blue world where you are lying, slips down through the night air, passes through your window or your wall or the still air of your room, and brushes, finally, against you, against the resting weight of your body in the dark. A thread of the first warmth from the beginning of everything completing its enormous journey in the quiet of your own night. And then it passes on, through you and beyond you, continuing into the dark on the far side, still traveling, still faithful, in no more hurry now than it ever was. You are not the destination of the first light. You are simply a resting place it passes through, a warm body it brushes against on its endless way, a brief and tender meeting between the oldest warmth there is and the newest, between a light 14 billion years old and a breath only seconds old, touching for an instant in the dark and then parting again, both of them carrying on. There is something so soothing in being merely passed through, in being a quiet way station rather than a final end. You do not have to hold the first light. You do not have to keep it. You do not have to do anything with it at all. It arrives. It brushes against you. It warms you for an instant with the faintest possible warmth, and it continues, leaving you exactly as you were, only touched, only visited, only briefly companioned by the oldest traveler there is. And it is not the only one. Countless such rays are arriving every moment, threads of the first warmth raining down from every direction at once, passing through you and through your room, and through everything around you in an endless gentle tide, each one ancient, each one faithful, each one asking nothing, each one simply passing through on its long way into the dark. You are bathed in arrivals. You are washed, constantly and harmlessly, in the completed journeys of the oldest light there is. And every one of them is a kind of quiet company, keeping you faint and warm and tender company through the night, the way the first warm glow keeps company with a room it has only just begun to fill. So as you lie here, you might imagine yourself as that resting place, that quiet way station in the long journey of the first light, a warm, small body through which the ancient warmth is endlessly and gently passing. You do not have to reach for it. You do not have to grasp it. You only have to lie here and let it pass through you, arrival after arrival, thread after thread. The cooled warmth of the beginning of everything washing through you in an unhurried tide while you do nothing at all but breathe and soften and sink. The first light has traveled 14 billion years to brush against you tonight, and it has all the time in the world, and it asks nothing of you. and it leaves you exactly as you are. Only warmer, only company, only touched for an instant by the oldest warmth there is before it carries on. Let it pass through you now. Let it warm you and leave you. Let the long tide of ancient arrivals carry you, breath by breath, a little deeper toward sleep. It is worth pausing to wonder at the strange gift that light has given us, the way it carries the past to us so faithfully that we can read it like a letter from the beginning. Because light takes time to travel, every ray that reaches us is a kind of message sent long ago, arriving unchanged after its journey, telling us not how things are, but how things were when the light first set out. The starlight you might glimpse through a window left its star years, or centuries, or thousands of years ago, so that to look up at the night is to read a great layered letter, each star a sentence written at a different time, all of them arriving together to be read at once. And the first light, the oldest of all, is the very first line of that letter, the opening words of the longest message there is, written nearly 14 billion years ago and arriving only now, telling us, faithfully and without distortion, exactly what the universe was like on the day it first became clear. We did not have to be there. We did not have to remember. The light remembered for us, carried the memory across all of time, and delivered it gently to instruments patient enough to read. There is a real tenderness in that, in the idea that the universe keeps its own memory and sends it to us freely, asking nothing in return. We do not have to reconstruct the beginning from guesswork alone. We can, in a real and literal way, look at it, see the warmth of the first dawn still arriving, read in its evenness and its faint ripples the true story of where everything came from. The first light is the universe's own memory of its own beginning, and it has kept that memory perfectly, never letting it fade beyond recovery, never letting it scramble or distort, carrying it across an ocean of time to lay it gently in our hands. And the more carefully we read it, the more it tells us, not in words, but in warmth, in the pattern of slightly warmer and slightly cooler that maps the seeds of all the galaxies, in the precise faintness of its glow that tells us how long it has traveled and how far. The first light is a letter that never stops being delivered, a memory that never stops arriving, the most faithful record there has ever been of the most ancient thing there is, and you are reading it too, in your own way, simply by lying here within it. You do not need the instruments. You do not need the maps. The first light is touching you regardless, washing through you, carrying its ancient memory into the very space your body occupies, so that you are, in the plainest physical sense, in contact with the beginning of everything, in direct and constant touch with the oldest warmth there is. There is no need to understand the message to receive it. There is no need to read the letter to be held by the hand that wrote it. You are inside the memory of the universe, soaked in its oldest light, kept gentle company by the faithful warmth of its first dawn, and all of it is reaching you freely, asking nothing, leaving you to do nothing but rest within it. The universe remembers its beginning, and it is whispering that memory all around you tonight, not to demand anything, only to keep you company, only to fill your dark with the warmth of where everything came from. So let yourself be read to. Let the oldest letter arrive, line by faithful line, the first warmth of the first dawn, delivering its memory into the space around your resting body, telling you, in the only language it has, the language of warmth, that the beginning was gentle, that the universe was once a single warm room, that everything grand grew from something faint, that the dark is full of light too soft to see. You do not have to follow the words. You only have to let the warmth arrive. The way a child being read to at the edge of sleep does not follow every sentence, but is carried by the sound, lulled by the faithful arriving of a voice that asks nothing, soothed by the simple fact of being kept company in the dark. The first light is reading you the oldest story there is, the story of its own beginning, and you may let it carry you the way any story carries a tired listener, down past the meaning of the words and into the warm hush beneath them, where sleep is patiently waiting. There is one more facet of the first light worth turning over slowly tonight, and it is perhaps the most intimate of all. The way that ancient warmth fills not only the great spaces between the stars, but the small spaces all around you, the air above your bed, the room you are lying in, the very gaps between the atoms of your own body. We tend to think of the first light as belonging to the far reaches, to the deep sky, to the cosmos out there. But it does not stop at the edge of the sky. It is here, in the most ordinary spaces, woven through the air you are breathing, present in the dark corners of your room exactly as it is present in the gulfs between the galaxies. The same faithful warmth, the same ancient glow, filling the near as completely as it fills the far. There is no place too small or too humble for the first light. It does not save itself for the grand distances. It fills the space behind your headboard and the space beneath your bed, and the space your slow breath moves through, all of it soaked in the same cooled warmth of the beginning, so that the room you are resting in tonight is, in the truest sense, a room held within the first light, a small warm pocket of the oldest glow there is. And so you belong here, completely, in a way that nothing can take from you. You are not a stranger to the universe, dropped into a cold and indifferent vastness. You are made of its oldest matter, bathed in its oldest light, held within its oldest warmth, woven into the same long story as every star and every galaxy and every other resting body lying awake in the dark tonight. The same first light that fills the space between the galaxies fills the space around your pillow. The same warmth that touched the first stars touches you. The same beginning that gave rise to everything gave rise to you, and keeps you, and surrounds you, and asks nothing of you but that you rest within it. There is no part of the universe you do not belong to, and no part of it that does not, in its faithful and unhurried way, belong to you. You are home. You have always been home. The first light has been keeping a warm room for you since before the earth existed, and you are lying in it now. Let that belonging settle all the way down through you, past the thinking part of the mind and into the body, into the weight of your limbs, and the slow rhythm of your breath. You do not have to earn your place in the universe. You do not have to understand it, or measure it, or do anything at all to deserve it. You belong simply by being made of it, simply by being bathed in its oldest light, simply by lying here within the warm room it has kept for you all along. The first warm glow that woke in a room that had never known light has filled every room since, including this one, including the small warm space where you are resting now, and it holds you exactly as it holds everything, without preference, without demand, without any condition you must meet. You are held by the oldest warmth there is, and it will not let go, and it asks nothing, and you are home. And if your mind has wandered through all of this, if you have lost the thread of the science and caught only fragments, the colors, the cooling, the warmth, the journey, that is perfectly all right. That is exactly as it should be. The thread was never the point. The warmth was the point. The belonging was the point. The slow easing of your body toward sleep was always the point. And the first light was only ever a wide and gentle thing to rest your tired mind against, while that easing happened on its own. So let the fragments drift now. Let the science loosen and float away. Keep only the warmth, only the sense of being held, only the faint and faithful glow filling the room and the night and the slow space of your breath. And let even that grow dim and soft at the edges as you sink, the way the first dawn itself grew dim and soft as the universe relaxed into the long peace it has been resting in ever since. You are part of that long peace now. You always were. Let it carry you the rest of the way down. Think, for a slow while, of all the smaller dawns you have known in your own life, and how each of them is, in its way, a faint echo of that first one. Think of the way a room slowly brightens in the early morning before you are fully awake, the dark thinning by degrees, the shapes of things easing back into being one by one, the warmth returning so gradually that you can never name the moment when night became day. Think of the first low light of a sunrise spreading across a quiet sky, that patient reddening at the edge of the world. The way the warmth arrives before the brightness, the way the color comes up slowly. Ember and rose and amber, the very colors the first dawn wore when it came free. Think of a single candle lit in a dark room, the way its small glow does not banish the dark all at once, but spreads into it tenderly, reaching the near walls first and then the far ones, filling the room a little at a time with a warmth that was not there before. Every one of these is a small repetition of the oldest event there is, a first warm glow, waking in a room that had, until that moment, been dark. You have witnessed the first light 1,000 times, in miniature, in every dawn and every lamp and every slow brightening of a morning room. And there is something deeply restful in recognizing that the universe's grandest beginning is mirrored in the smallest, most ordinary warmth of your own days. You do not have to travel 14 billion light years to meet the first light. You meet its echo every time a room grows warm with morning, every time a flame is lit against the dark, every time the sun returns over the edge of the world to fill the sky with its patient glow. The same shape repeats, from the largest scale to the smallest, the same easing of dark into warmth, the same slow arrival of light into a place that had been without it, the same tender filling of a room. The universe taught the morning how to dawn. The first light taught every light that followed how to spread, how to warm, how to fill a dark room without ever needing to hurry. And so the warmth of your own ordinary mornings is, in the deepest sense, family to the warmth of the beginning, a small descendant of the first glow, carrying forward the same ancient gesture of light arriving into the dark. So tonight, as you rest in the dark before sleep, you might let yourself feel that you are simply between dawns, resting in the gentle gap between the warmth that has passed and the warmth that will return, held in the same patient dark that the universe itself once rested in through its long twilight, waiting for its first stars. The dark is not the end of the light. It is only the pause between one warmth and the next, the resting place between the dawn that has set and the dawn that is coming, and you are held in it the way the early universe was held in its twilight, safe, unhurried, sure that the light will return, because the light always returns. There is no need to fear the dark when you know it is only the space between two warmths, only the quiet gap in which everything that will later shine is patiently gathering itself, only the long, slow rest before the next first light wakes. And the next first light will wake, The morning will come, as it always comes, the dark thinning by degrees, the warmth returning before the brightness, the room slowly filling with the ember and the rose and the amber of another dawn. You do not have to bring it. You do not have to watch for it. It will arrive on its own, faithfully, the way the first light arrived, the way every dawn has arrived since, without needing anything from you at all. So you can let go of the day entirely now, sure that the next warmth is already on its way, already gathering at the edge of the world, already preparing to fill the room. Your only task tonight is the same as the universe's task through its long twilight, which is no task at all, but simply to rest, to drift, to wait in the warm dark for the light that is always, faithfully, on its way back. Let yourself rest in that certainty now, in the gentle gap between dawns, held safely in the warm dark, sure of the morning, asking nothing, doing nothing, sinking slowly toward the deep rest where the next first light will find you. Let us return once more to your own body, slowly, with great tenderness, and let the breath be our way back. The universe, we said, has been one long exhale since the beginning, one immense and unhurried letting go, expanding and cooling and easing across all of time. And your own breath is the same gesture in miniature, the same easing, the same release, happening over and over in the warm dark of your room. So let your breath join the universe's breath now. Let each exhale be a little longer than the one before, a little slower, a little more complete, the way the universe's own expansion has only ever slowed and eased and never rushed. There is no need to control it. There is no need to count it or measure it or make it perfect. There is only the letting go, breath after breath, each one a small echo of the great loosening that has been unfolding since the first light came free. Feel the warmth of your own body now, the ordinary heat of a living thing at rest, and know that it too is part of the lineage of the first light, the same warmth handed down across all of time, glowing faintly now in the rise and fall of your chest, in the slow pulse at your wrist, in the gentle heat of your hands resting wherever they rest. You are a small warm glow in a dark room, exactly as the first light was, a tender warmth filling the space it occupies, asking nothing, simply being warm, simply being present, simply glowing faintly in the dark the way everything that has ever been alive has glowed. There is nothing you need to add to that warmth and nothing you need to take from it. It is already enough. It is already complete. You are already, exactly as you are, a faithful continuation of the oldest warmth there is, resting now in the dark, breathing slowly, letting go. Let the easing move through you once more, slowly, the way the first light moved through the early universe, filling each part in turn. Let it begin at the crown of your head and move down across your forehead, smoothing away the last small tension there, letting the brow grow heavy and untroubled. Let it move down through your eyes, letting them rest fully closed, letting the muscles around them release every last bit of their holding. Let it ease down through your jaw, your throat, your shoulders, those patient shoulders that have carried so much today, letting them drop and widen and soften toward the bed. Let it flow down through your arms to your hands, through your chest with its slow, steady breath, through your belly rising and falling, through your hips and your legs, and all the way down to your feet, until the whole of you is filled with the same easy warmth, the same faint glow, the same complete and unhurried rest. There is nothing left anywhere in your body that needs to work. There is nothing left anywhere that needs to hold. there is only the warmth, filling you the way the first light filled its room, and the slow breath, and the deep dark, and the patient sinking toward sleep. And as you sink, let the wondering grow dim. You came to this night with a great question, what the very first light in the universe was, and you have wandered through it slowly, through the warm, crowded beginning, and the long cooling, and the moment of clearing, and the faithful journey of the oldest light to your own resting body tonight. And now the question has done its work. It has carried your tired mind across a vast and harmless landscape while your body let go of the day, and that is all it was ever for. You do not need to answer it now. You do not need to remember it. You can let it dissolve into the warmth, the way the first dawn dissolved into the gentle glow that fills all of space, the way every question dissolves at the edge of sleep into the simple, wordless warmth of rest. The wondering is over. The warmth remains. Let it carry you the rest of the way down into the deep, dark room where the first light has been keeping a warm place for you all along, where you belong, where you are held, where you are safe. If you find yourself yet drifting just above sleep, let us wander once more, slowly, through the changing colors of the universe across all of time, because there is a tender lullaby hidden in that long, slow shift of hues. In the very beginning, before the first light came free, the universe glowed white-hot and brilliant, too bright to see through, a brilliance held inside the fog. Then, as it cooled and cleared, it mellowed into that warm ember orange of the first dawn, the color of banked coals, the color of low firelight, the color the whole of space wore on the day it first became transparent. And then, through its long twilight, it deepened toward red and then toward darkness, the first dawn fading as the room stretched wider, the warmth sliding down out of sight. Then the first stars woke, scattering new points of white and blue and gold across the dim field, and the universe took on the colors of starlight, the deep black sky studded with warm and cool points of fire. And on it has gone, the colors shifting slowly across the ages, the universe a vast, slow painting that has never stopped changing, always easing from one hue to the next, always unhurried, always tender. Scientists have even tried to find the single average color of all the light in the universe, the color you would see if you could blend every star and every galaxy and every glow together into one. And the answer they found is a soft thing, a pale, warm shade somewhere between cream and the faintest beige, the color of warm milk, the color of old ivory, the color of a wall washed in low evening light. There is something so soothing in that if you stirred all the light of the cosmos together, you would not get something harsh or glaring, but something pale and warm and restful. A color you might paint a quiet room, a color that asks nothing of the eye, a color made for resting against. The average warmth of everything is a gentle one. The blended glow of all that exists is a soft and tender shade. The universe, taken all together, is the color of a peaceful room at the end of the day. Let your mind rest against that pale, warm color now, the blended glow of everything, the soft average of all the light there has ever been. Imagine it washing the walls of your room, the faintest warm cream, the color of the whole universe stirred together into one tender shade, filling your dark with the most restful hue there is. You are lying in a room painted, in a sense, with the color of all existence, and that color is warm and soft and made for sleep. There is nothing harsh in the universe's blended light. There is nothing glaring in the average of all that shines. there is only this pale, warm tenderness, the color of warm milk and old ivory and low evening light, the color the whole cosmos becomes when you let all its brightness settle and blend and ease into one. Rest against it. Let it fill your eyes behind your closed lids. Let it be the last color you see as you sink, the warm pale glow of everything there is, holding you, washing your dark with the tenderest shade in existence. And know, as you rest against that color, that you are not separate from it, that the warmth of your own body and the faint glow of your own life are part of what makes it up. That if you stirred all the light of the universe together, your own small warmth would be in there too, a tiny faithful contribution to the blended glow of everything. You are part of the color of the cosmos. Your own quiet warmth is one of the countless faint glows that, altogether, make the universe the tender pale shade it is. You belong to that color. You help to make it. And tonight, as you rest, your warmth simply blends back into the warmth of everything, your small glow easing into the great glow, until there is no separation left between the light you are and the light all around you. Only one warm, pale tenderness, holding everything, holding you, washing the whole of the dark with the color of rest. There is a last tenderness in this whole story, and it is the way the first light teaches us how to begin. We so often feel, when we face a beginning of our own, that it should be dramatic, that to start something new is to strike a match against the dark with great effort, to force a light into being where there was none. But the first light did not begin that way. It did not force itself into being. It was already there, woven through everything, waiting only for the room to ease enough to let it spread. The beginning was not an act of striking. It was an act of allowing, a letting go, a relaxing of the conditions that had held the warmth back, so that the glow that had been there all along could finally come free. The greatest beginning there has ever been was not a forcing, but an easing, not a striking, but a settling. The first warm glow, waking in a room that had never known light, not because anything was struck or forced or seized, but simply because the room, at last, grew ready to let the warmth come through. And so the deepest lesson of the first light, the one to carry down with you into sleep, is that beginnings come not from force, but from easing. The rest that is coming for you tonight is exactly such a beginning, and it cannot be forced any more than the first dawn could be forced. It can only be allowed. It comes not when you strike for it, but when you ease toward it, not when you seize it, but when you settle and let the conditions that have held it back grow thin. The sleep you are drifting toward is already there, woven through you, waiting like the first light waited, held back only by the small remaining tensions of the day. The last faint crowding of thought, the final loose particles of waking that have not yet settled, and as they settle, as they ease, as they pair off and grow still, the way the early universe grew still, the openings will appear, and the rest will slip through, and the first light of sleep will spread across the room of your mind and fill it completely. You do not have to make sleep come. You only have to let the room grow ready. You only have to ease and thin and settle and allow, the way the universe eased and thinned and settled and allowed across all of its long patient ages, until the warmth that was always there could finally come free. There is no effort in it. There is no striking, no forcing, no seizing. There is only the gentlest allowing, the most patient letting go, the slow readying of a room for the glow that has been waiting in its walls all along. And it will come. As surely as the first light came when the room was ready, the rest will come when you are ready, slipping through the openings, spreading across the dark, filling you with the oldest and tenderest warmth there is. You have only to allow it. You have only to lie here, easing, and let the room grow ready, and wait, without waiting, for the first light of sleep to wake. So let everything ease now, one last time, all the way down. Let the last tensions settle like the last loose particles of the early universe finding their stillness. Let the last thoughts pair off and grow quiet. Let the room of your mind, so long crowded with the day, finally thin, finally clear, finally open enough to let the warmth come through. The first light is waiting in your walls. The rest is woven through you, ready to spread. You have only to allow it, and it will wake, the way the oldest light woke when its room was ready, the way every warmth has waked in every dark room since, gently, faithfully, completely. Let it wake now. Let the first light of sleep spread across the dark and fill the room and carry you down. And as you drift, you might let yourself feel, faintly and without effort, the quiet company of everyone else who is resting beneath the same first light tonight. All across the world, in countless dark rooms, others are lying awake or sinking toward sleep, each of them bathed in the very same ancient warmth, each of them held by the very same oldest glow, each of them a small, warm body through which the first light is endlessly and gently passing. You are not alone in the dark. You are part of a vast and quiet company, a whole world of resting bodies, all held within the same warm room of the universe, all soaked in the same cooled light of the beginning, all belonging to the same long story. The first light does not touch you alone. It touches every one of them too, evenly, faithfully, without preference, filling every dark room in the world with the same tender warmth, keeping the same patient company with every tired mind that turns toward sleep. There is a deep comfort in that shared belonging, in knowing that the warmth holding you is the same warmth holding everyone, that the oldest light keeps company with all of us at once, that no one is left out of the warm room of the universe. The person lying awake on the far side of the world tonight is held by the same first light as you. The child drifting toward sleep, the traveler resting in an unfamiliar room, the weary soul turning a vast question over in the dark exactly as you are now, all of them are bathed in the same ancient glow, all of them part of the same quiet company, all of them belonging to the same warm beginning. You are not a single small light alone in the dark. You are one of countless small lights, all glowing faintly in the same vast warm room, all held by the same first light, all drifting together toward the same patient rest. So let yourself rest in that company now, the gentle company of everyone held by the first light, the quiet fellowship of all the resting bodies in all the dark rooms of the world, bathed together in the oldest warmth there is. You do not have to know them. You do not have to reach them. You only have to feel, faintly, that you are among them, one warm glow among countless warm glows, all of you held, all of you belonging, all of you drifting down together into the same deep rest beneath the same first light. The warmth that holds you tonight has been holding tired minds since the first one ever wondered at it. And it holds them all at once, and it holds you among them, and it asks nothing of any of you, but that you rest. Let it hold you now, among all the others, in the great warm room of the universe, and let the company of all those quiet resting lights carry you, with them, down toward sleep. Let us tell the whole story once more, very slowly. The way you might hum a familiar tune to a child at the edge of sleep, not to teach anything now, but only to soothe. Once, long ago, longer than any number can truly hold, the universe was warm and crowded and bright, too bright to see through, a glow held inside a fog that filled all of being. And it began to ease. It stretched, and it thinned, and it cooled, slowly, faithfully, across ages so long that nothing could have been impatient inside them. And as it cooled, the restless particles that had held the light imprisoned began to tire, and to settle, and to pair off into stillness, until between them, at last, there were openings. And the light, which had been waiting in the walls of everything since the very beginning, found the openings, and slipped through, and traveled free for the first time, spilling across the newly cleared dark in a warm ember glow, the first true dawn, the first light that could ever be seen. And it has been traveling ever since, stretched longer and longer by the growing room, cooled from orange to red, to a warmth beyond all seeing, faithful and unhurried, never stopping, never lost. And it is here now, around your bed and through your walls, washing endlessly and harmlessly through the dark. That is the whole of it. That is what the very first light in the universe was. It was not a striking, but an easing. It was not a forcing, but an allowing. It was the warmth that had always been there, finally let free to spread, the first warm glow waking in a room that had never known light, and then filling that room, and then filling every room since, including this one, including the small warm dark where you are resting now. And you are made of its lineage, and bathed in its warmth, and held within its glow, and kept company by its faithful arrivals, and you belong to it completely, the way everything belongs to it, without condition, without demand, without anything you must do to deserve it. You have only to rest within it. You have only to let it hold you. You have only to ease the way it eased, and settle the way it settled, and let the first light of your own rest come free. So let the story dissolve now, the way the first dawn dissolved into the gentle glow that fills all of space. Let the words grow faint and warm and far away. Keep only the feeling of being held, the faint warmth filling the room, the sense of belonging to something old and tender and complete. And let even that grow dim at the edges as you sink. There is nothing left to follow. There is nothing left to understand. There is only the warmth, and the slow breath, and the deep dark room where the first light has kept a place for you all along, and the patient sinking toward the rest that is already woven through you, already waiting, already beginning to spread. Let it spread now. Let it fill the room of your mind the way the first light filled its room, edge to edge, corner to corner, complete. Let the warmth carry you the rest of the way down, into the oldest and tenderest rest there is. There is one final easing to offer you before the night closes over, and it is perhaps the kindest of all. You came here with a question, and we have wandered through it together, but you do not have to leave with an answer, and that is entirely all right. Some of the most beautiful questions are not meant to be solved, but to be rested in, held loosely in the dark like a warm stone in the hand, turned over slowly, never gripped too tight. What the very first light in the universe was is a question scientists are even now tending, listening for, learning from, and they will go on tending it long after tonight, with the same patience the light itself has shown. You are not behind for not knowing. You are not failing for letting the question stay open. The open question is its own kind of comfort, a wide warm space to rest your mind against, asking nothing of you, offering only the gentle company of a wonder too large and too old to ever fully close. So let the question stay open as you drift, the way the sky stays open over a sleeping field, the way the warm dark stays open all around you. You do not have to close it tonight. You do not have to close anything tonight. You can let it all stay open and warm and unfinished. The question and the wondering and the long story of the light, all of it held loosely in the dark while you let go. There is a deep rest in not needing to finish, in not needing to solve, in letting the great old wonder simply be there, glowing faintly, keeping you company, asking nothing. The first light has been an open question for as long as there have been minds to ask it, and it has never once needed anyone to answer it in order to keep shining. It will keep shining tonight, whether or not you understand it, whether or not you remember it, whether or not you ever think of it again. It asks nothing, it only warms. Let it warm you now, the open question and the open dark and the faithful old glow, and let yourself rest, unfinished and unworried, in the wide warm space of a wonder that will never need anything from you at all. Tonight has been about the very first light in the universe, and about how it was not a striking, but an easing, not a sudden flame in the dark, but a warmth that had always been there, waiting in the walls of everything, held back only until the room grew ready to let it spread. Tonight has been about the long warm beginning, too bright and too crowded to see through, and the patient cooling that thinned it, age after age, until the restless particles settled and the openings appeared and the oldest light slipped free. Tonight has been about that first ember dawn, spreading across the newly cleared dark, and its faithful journey across nearly 14 billion years, stretched and cooled and gentled, arriving at last in the space around your bed. Tonight has been about the people who found it, listening so carefully that they heard the faint hum of the beginning in a metal horn on a hill. Tonight has been about the warmth that fills every room and the color of all the light there is, and the quiet company of everyone resting beneath the same first glow. And tonight has been about you, made of the lineage of that first light, bathed in its warmth, held within its room, belonging to it completely. The first light was an easing, and an easing, and an easing. It was a warmth that waited, and waited, and waited, and then came free. It filled the room, and filled the room, and filled the room, until there was no corner of the dark it did not reach. And none of this needs anything from you tonight. You do not need to remember it. You do not need to understand it. You do not need to carry a single word of it into the morning. The first light has been shining for 14 billion years without your help, and it will go on shining whether or not you keep any of this, faithful and warm and asking nothing. You came here only to rest, and the resting is the only thing that matters now, and it is already happening, all on its own, the way the first light happened, without effort, without force, without anything you must do. Let it all go. Let the words go, and the wondering go, and the long story go, and keep only the warmth, only the holding, only the deep dark room where you belong. In a little while, another quiet exploration is waiting on the screen, another slow wandering through some wide and gentle question, ready to begin on its own if you let it. You do not have to reach for it. You do not have to do anything at all. If it helps you stay in this warm half place at the edge of sleep, let it begin on its own. Let the next quiet voice rise softly out of the dark and carry you onward, the way the first light carries on into the dark long after it has passed through any single resting place. Let it play, Let it keep you company. Let it be there if you surface, another warm glow waiting in the room. And if you are yet here, drifting just above sleep, I will leave you with one small thing to wonder, so faintly that you need not answer it. Only let it drift through you as you go. If the first light is arriving even now tonight, washing through your dark room from the beginning of everything, what warmth do you think you are quietly handing forward? What faint glow of your own is passing onward from you, into the dark, towards someone or something not yet here? You do not have to know. You can let the question dissolve into the warmth, like everything else, and simply rest in the knowing that you, too, are part of the long handing down of light. Now let everything ease, one last time, all the way down. Let your breath grow slow and easy, each exhale longer than the last. Let your shoulders rest fully into whatever holds them. Let your hands grow heavy, your jaw loosen, your forehead smooth. Let the warmth fill you the way the first light filled its room, edge to edge, corner to corner, complete, until there is nothing left anywhere in you that is working, or waiting, or holding on. You are held by the oldest warmth there is. You belong to the great warm room of the universe. You are made of the first light, and bathed in it, and carried by it, and safe within it, here, now, in the deep dark, drifting down into the rest that has been woven through you since the very beginning. The first warm glow has waked in the room that had never known light, and it has filled the room, and it holds you now, completely, and there is nothing more to do, and nowhere else to be, and nothing left to carry. Let the first light carry you down into sleep. Sleep well.